I'll call to order the September 21st, 2021 meeting of Ag and Rural Affairs. The first item on the agenda is approval of minutes of the July 20th meeting. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to the July minutes? Hearing none, can we get a motion?
Motion approved. Roger, microphone, please. Microphone, Roger.
In a second by George. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Public appearances for non-agenda items. There is no one here, so we'll move on to agenda review. Wade, any changes to the agenda?
No.
Okay. So item 5A, preliminary plat request by Stephen Jong, agent for Pat and Tom O'Brien, for approval of the O'Brien Flats preliminary plat to subdivide land along Lacey Road and Seminole Highway. I think what we'll do on this is let's start out with a staff report, and then I see Jeff is here representing the O'Briens, and then have him kind of address what they're doing. But Wade, why don't you start out and give us the overall on this?
And actually, is Sonia in the audience, or?
Sonia's here too, yes.
Sonia, are you wanting to do this? I mean, you're
Yep.
more familiar. I certainly can, but if you're more familiar.
Yeah,
with
that's
it,
fine.
with
Yep,
me.
Sonia will take it. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Wade. Sonia Kriesel, city planner, for those of you I don't know. So the request here is a plat by the O'Brien family. The purpose or the impetus for this plat is really to subdivide the farm to allow them to sell off the lot in the northwest corner to sell to Edgewood College, and then also to consolidate the existing home and buildings on the west side of Seminole Highway. So the plat overall would result in 4 lots, one for Edgewood, one for the house lot, one for the remaining area on the west side of Seminole that is in solar lease, and then the farm acreage that's on the east side of Seminole Highway would be the 4th lot. And then also included in the plat are 2 outlots. These are lots that would be platted but aren't developable, so they would be shown on the plat as outlots. One is the triangular piece between the Badger State Trail and Seminole Highway, and then the second outlot is a really small parcel closer to Lot 4, which is the existing residence on the west side of Seminole. The purpose of that small outlot is to allow the home lot to be able to meet our ordinance requirements for frontage on a public street. So this is a really unique condition where the home itself is pretty much landlocked behind that bike trail, but by deeding together or deed restricting the house lot and the small outlot, we're requiring that those 2 lots always be owned and sold together in perpetuity and also be maintained by the same owner. So that's how we're meeting the lot frontage. The DOA, Plat Review, or Department of Administration, is reviewing this as well. They're comfortable with that approach. And they're also comfortable with the access to that house lot, which is currently through the existing driveway across the Badger State Trail. And the idea there is that that's a historic existing condition that's been in existence for quite some time, enough that they would be comfortable with that being a prescriptive easement across that Badger State Trail. So that's kind of the overall parcel proposal. There are a couple other things worth noting. There are some lower areas that are closed depressions or glacial kettles. So those areas on the plat have been called out at the elevation of, I think it's 1021.1 feet. And we're just noting on the plat that no structures can be developed within that area or 2 feet above that elevation to avoid flooding problems. And then the second issue is, for discussion, is the configuration of that proposed home lot. So I'm not sure if Wade has the packet available online, but if it's needed, we can take a look at that. And what they're proposing is a jog in the southern property line on that home lot. Usually when we're doing a farm consolidation lot, we are looking to limit the amount of land that is taken out of exclusive ag zoning or out of tillable acreage. So we would prefer to see a straight line from west to east rather than the jog. The applicants are proposing the jog in order to follow the boundary of where the solar lease is right now. There are also, I think, some other unique conditions with how that lot line compares to the trail and access. So I think Jeff O'Brien might be able to comment on that further, provide justification, and perhaps explain why exactly the solar lease ended up in that configuration.
Great, thanks,
Thank you,
Sonia.
Sonia. I appreciate the time from the committee. I also want to thank the staff. Sonia and a number of other members have been very helpful as we've gone through this process. So want to recognize the city and the staff for all the efforts here. So when we talk about this lot and the jog there's really two reasons. The first reason is the bump out was put in place to accommodate the point of interconnect and to provide MG&E access to the new utility pole that was installed inside the fence of the development. So that's why in the solar lease, that line got drawn. And now we're asking just to follow that same line. The second reason is we were just talking about access, right? If we made this a straight line, we would leave dead space within lot 3 that wouldn't be farmable and wouldn't really have any agricultural use in lot 3 because we would need to go through our lessee's land with heavy equipment to try to get to a very small piece of land and try to farm it. It just doesn't make sense. There's no ingress, egress, there's no easy way without disturbing the rights of our lessee. And so we just really think that it makes much, much more sense for it to continue with lot 4. And then the folks who, us or whoever ends up owning lot 4, if we do end up selling that property without lot 2, they can have the quiet enjoyment of that land in the jog. So that's the rationale. Those are the two main reasons. As Sonia mentioned, it does follow the line of the lease we struck with MG&E, and that was due to some electrical needs of that firm. And then we're also asking because if you made it a straight line, it would just leave dead land that wouldn't be very accessible for us to farm. So we appreciate your consideration and ask you to approve it as drawn.
Jeff, could you explain, there are really two jogs. I mean, there are 3 different southerly levels that this southern lot line is at. So if you start out to the west, Wade, if you can kind of point to the corner of this, the southwest corner. Okay, so as I understand it, the MG&E pole is somewhere, where is it?
So my understanding is that that first line from the road is to the point of the interconnect, and then it jogs so that they can get access to the new, I'm sorry, I said that the separate way, Ed. What it does there is it's coming off the road. They made that jog so they can get to the new utility pole. And then the next line follows the interconnect. And so that's what's going on.
Okay, so the solar equipment in that rectangular area that's excluded from lot 4 to the southwest, there is solar equipment located there, correct?
Correct.
Okay, but there is none in the area that's included in Lot 4, the southernmost portion of Lot 4.
That's correct.
Okay. And so the other jog has to do with the access to the utility pole.
Yes. Yep. That is my understanding of the way it's drawn.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, good discussion or questions?
No, I don't know.
On,
There you go.
that's on.
Yep.
Sonia, the sale to MG&E is still pending, am I correct on that?
It's a lease?
To Edgewood College.
That's my understanding. Yep.
Okay,
And I can confirm that.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Jeff just confirmed that it is still pending to Edgewood.
Okay, cool. That, then my questions aren't pertinent at this point in time, so that's the only issue I had. Traffic was my concern, so.
George?
I just have a question about that pole that you're talking about. It seems to be the main issue. Just the access for that pole, or the placement of the pole. They pretty much had to go and install it where it is, and that seems to be the main cause of the jog. The equipment doesn't seem to be the big issue here, right?
No, well, I guess there's two different jogs, and there's two different reasons for them. You notice the southerly lines, they're at three different levels. So further to the west, the issue is that the solar equipment is in that area.
Oh, okay.
But if they draw that line, the one that starts in the west and goes toward the east, if they draw that all the way across to the road, you're creating a chunk of land there that really can't be used for anything. It can't be farmed. It's
Correct.
not part of the solar lease. So the desire is to keep that as part of the home lot. Now, there's a separate jog where then the line jogs to the north again before going out to the road. The reason for that is that the utility pole that MG&E needs access to
Okay.
is there.
Right, that's clear.
So, I mean, one of the things that I had talked to Sonia before about is, the possibility whether the furthest south line could at least go all the way out to the road so that there's only one jog in this to make this lot shape more regular than it is. But if you do that, the pole's going to be on Lot 4 rather than on Lot 3. And the other possibility would be to bring the most southerly east-west line, the one in the middle, to bring that north to even it off with a line that goes out to the road. Now, if you do that, you still have a sliver of land that's not useful there to anyone, but at least you would have evened it off. And I guess my question to Sonia would be, is that meaningful from a planning standpoint?
If we were to eliminate one of the jogs, you're saying essentially that southernmost line, bringing that up.
Bringing that north so
Right.
that then the pole is still on Lot 3.
Right. I mean, it would make a little bit of a difference, but I think at the end of the day, if you're making an accommodation for this purpose, I think it might not make that big of a difference. So when we're looking at it, the solar lease is, as I understand it, 35 years. Perhaps that could be extended and it would go longer, but when we create a lot, it's created in perpetuity. So the underlying zoning of the solar lease is still ag, and we, like I said, want to minimize conversion of land out of ag. But if it can't be farmed anyway for 35 years, are we concerned about losing that piece in the long term? And then the second consideration would be to avoid irregular lot shapes, either to facilitate easier farm access or in other cases to encourage regular platting for future development. In this case, the area is not in a future urban development area. It's not planned for development at all. That could change with modifications to the comp plan. But right now, we'd be operating under this understanding that the remainder of the farmland would be under exclusive ag zoning.
Okay, thanks.
If I can just comment on this, I think it just makes a whole lot of sense to me how it's presented. The idea of moving lines and kind of creating our own way that we think this should look seems that it would produce like useless space or useless portions of land. So I guess my comment on this is it makes sense to me exactly how it's presented.
Okay, thanks, Amy. Randy?
This past Sunday, myself and Roger Cohen, I hope you'll jump in, Roger, and correct me if I'm wrong, and we met with Pat O'Brien. And it's hard from this sketch to understand where that fenced-in area is and where the power pole is. If I were to, having been out in the field and looked at it, I would guess that that fenced-in area with these equipment that you need an access card to access would be to the south side of that southern line. Am I correct in that, Roger? Don't you agree? I mean,
Yes.
but I don't know if there's any iron pipes out there to tell us that.
The driveway and then the entrance into the fenced-in area is to the south of that,
Right.
a ways, yeah.
And then everything north of that southern line, there was corn. So I'm still a little confused by the line, that short line, well, I'm going to say a 75, no, it's not 75 feet, but goes from road right away to, and moves to the west. Yeah, I'm not sure what that does. I mean, because the power pole definitely sits inside of the fenced area. And the only way you can access that power pole would be to go through those gates that are controlled by a card reader and a driveway. But since I would understand it, Jeff speaks with his surveyor, they would have a clear understanding where everything is, and I'm going to follow their lead as to they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly where is this pole that we're talking about? Is it inside the fenced area, or is it in that square that we're talking about?
Well, if I remember correctly, it was inside the fenced area.
Yeah.
And then the
So,
service feeding that pole ran out to the road right away at a bit of an angle.
And I think their point, guys, is the access that they need to get to the pole. So that's the note I have here was to provide MG&E access to the new utility pole that was installed inside the fence of the development.
they can't go, they can't go through the main gate to get to it?
I can certainly follow up with MG&E if the commission would care for me to do so.
Yeah, but if they could, the point on that, Jeff, if they can get to it on the inside, go through the gate, go through the fence to get to it, then what Ed is talking about, that line could be made straight to go, that jog would be eliminated and go straight to the road. Is that correct?
That is correct. Now, I think there is one consideration which Steve may have been thinking of here is that we were trying to mitigate the amount of lot that we were asking for in the farm area, because we knew that the city's preference is to try to keep that as limited as possible. That would actually increase the lottage in lot 4 from 8.439 to some, slightly higher. I don't know if it's 8.6, 8.7, but that could have been the consideration. And without him here, it's hard for me to speak to him. But I do want to raise that because I know Sonia, in our discussions, has has raised that as a consideration from a planning perspective.
Sonia, what is the figure you're looking at for that acreage?
When we look at farm consolidation lots, our advice is always just to minimize the acreage converted, or to limit it only to the acreage needed to surround the home and the farm buildings and septic drain fields, for example. So this is more than that. But, you know, you're balancing either the land converted out or a more regularly shaped lot. So if we would prefer instead and put greater weight on a straight line, just to, you know, avoid odd areas to farm in the future or to avoid platting issues with development in the future, then maybe that's more important than the 0.2 acres that we'd lose.
It appears to be a very minimal amount for the line isn't clean for that small amount. It'd be worth, I think it would only make sense to make it go straight across.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree, because how are you gonna farm that little jogged area right there anyhow? So if the utility pole that's of concern is in fact south of that southerly east-west line, then it would make sense to continue that southerly east-west line all the way to the road and eliminate that jog.
Another point, the road's going to get expanded sometime. I think they're looking, what, a 50-foot easement for that road? And so that piece that we're talking about is even going to be less when the road comes in there. And of course, the bike trail intersection is right there too.
Right. So whatever road dedication would be required, they'd dedicate that with the plat now. So we'd have that final number. Mm-hmm.
If you do straighten the line out, you can easement access for MG&E or for whoever. So that's always another option. If you really need to keep it a straight line, you can easement it and record it on plat. So it's.
Yeah, but it sounds like an easement really wouldn't be needed, because the pole that they need access to is actually south of that furthest south east-west line anyhow. It's not in that jogged area. The purpose of the jogged area was to try to reduce the overall size of the plat, not to accommodate the access to the pole.
Well, I think if we're correct from just the field visit, that fence is at the southern, that southern line, which would be the northern part of that fenced area. And at that circle, I don't know what the terminology is, but to me, there would be an iron pipe or something there as a marker, and that's the corner of that fenced area. Now, I could be completely wrong. I think the surveyor can answer that question. But the drive is also within that area, that southern area. So it currently isn't, if we're looking at that jogged area as it is, that driveway is not to the north of it, if that makes sense, right, Roger? It's straight across. If we extend that line straight across, that's where the drive is, to the south of it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's what I saw driving by too. The driveway is definitely to the south of where the fence line is.
Right.
Yeah. So as long as the pole is too,
Yeah.
then there shouldn't be any issue with just straightening that out and resolving it in that manner.
Sonia, do you have any problem with straightening that out from what you're hearing here?
No, that sounds reasonable to me.
Does it?
Yep.
Okay. Jeff, is that all right with you?
I'm just checking I'm shooting a note to our surveyor and to the surveyor that MG&E used, just to confirm that they're comfortable. We hopefully will get a response, and I know Steve will be at the 6 o'clock meeting. So I think we're comfortable with that, as long as it does not impugn upon any of MG&E's ability to do what they need to do.
Yeah.
We obviously want the lessee to have whatever rights they need in the land, and from a contractual perspective, I need to make sure that it doesn't create an issue there. My preference, to be honest, with the committee would be to keep it this way, just because I know that this follows the contract, and that this won't create any issues. But if the committee feels like there's value in straightening that line, I'm happy to do the research to determine if we can.
Do you expect, Jeff, that you'd be able to get an answer to that prior to the Plan Commission meeting at 6:30?
I don't know if I could, Ed. I mean, I'm going to send Steve a note right now, and he's usually pretty responsive, but unfortunately, we're on a pretty tight time frame, right? We've only got about an hour and a half or 2 hours before that conversation.
Right. Yeah, we could make a recommendation, and if something else comes up intervening that, that says, hey, that's going to be a problem, Randy and I will both be at the Plan Commission meeting. Sonia will be there, so we'll all understand that situation, and Plan Commission may then decide to do something different than what the committee is recommending. George?
Yeah, as far as the acreage goes, Jeff, we're probably only talking about a quarter of an acre or less?
Less.
Yeah, but as Roger points out, it's going to be even less by the time you figure in the road right away.
Right.
So there's
So, I
really,
mean, it seems like
it's immaterial and not anything that's really farmable anyhow.
Right, and I don't know if that would be better, Lisa, for conformed lot, if it was a straight.
Right, we're losing more farm acreage, but it's actually less attractive for farming. So it would be fine from a staff perspective to straighten that line. The Plan Commission could also add a condition of approval that says something along the lines of, that southern lot line may be adjusted with the final plat submittal, or the Plan Commission may require that it be straightened, because this is the preliminary plat, so we'd have an opportunity to look at that with
Oh,
the
that's
final.
right. That can be fixed at the final plat.
Very good.
Excellent. Great. Thanks, Sonia.
That is, yeah.
That helps a lot. So Jeff, we don't have to have the answer before the Plan Commission meeting. If you get that, if Ag and Rural and Plan Commission approve the preliminary plat and you need to make a change, let Sonia know that can be addressed at the final plat.
I'll make
Okay,
a motion.
perfect.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay, do you want to include, there is no condition right now with regard to straightening out that line.
I don't
No,
think so.
I don't think, I don't intend to add one to it. I think that can be done in the final product,
There must be a reason.
as we just explained.
Okay, I guess my only question is, we're making a recommendation to Plan Commission. After the discussion we've had, it seems like we all agree that it would be better for that line to be straightened out. Don't we want that in the recommendation that we're making going forward?
Hey, Ed, I know you guys are talking, but I want to raise one other point I just thought about. Contractually, we have contracted with MG&E for all of this land. If we move that line, there's going to be 0.2 acres, which a future owner of Lot 4 would potentially have a claim of land lease with MG&E.
I don't want to go there.
They did
Oh.
that
That
for a
brings
reason.
a lot of complexity in.
All right, we didn't know that. Okay.
Just assume. I mean, my take on this is obviously they've all worked. There's a lot of professionals that have worked together on this. I don't think there's any secrets. I think MG&E, the family, everyone is very well involved here. So I'm going back to my original comment. I think it's a job well done, and I would like to make a motion to approve it how it is. But if Plan Commission has any conditions they would like to add, by all means. But as far as this body, I'm really comfortable with going forward how it's stated.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the table to approve it as requested and as drawn with the 9 conditions that staff has recommended. Is that correct? Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you all. Have a
We'll
wonderful
we'll
evening.
see
See
you
you
at
in a little bit.
6:30. I think you're later on in the agenda, as I recall. Yeah, and it looks like a
Okay.
stiff agenda, so we may be there for a
All
while.
right, well, thank you all, and I'll see some of you later, and everyone else have a wonderful evening.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Sonia. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Agenda item 5B.
Ed,
Sort of-
before we go to that, while Sonia is still here, it's not on this, it's not for discussion on this meeting, it's just some information that I have. I am working on a property boundary to the south adjustment with Sonia and the landowners, and that will be coming to this body at some point in the future. And it's, deals with the ag acreage and some estate planning and things. So more to follow later. I just wanted to, I had mentioned to Sonia, I would at least mention it to this body. That'll be coming up the next few months.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Mark.
So on the Plan Commission, this has been withdrawn, correct?
Yeah, that's why I'm hanging around on this in case
Okay.
there are questions. Yep.
Yeah, so this was the CSM request 2402-21 by Scott Lesh for approval of a CSM 5121, 5129 Curry Court. So that was requested to be withdrawn,
Yes.
and the recommendation, I believe, was to table it at Plan Commission.
That's correct. The applicant withdrew this. The Plan Commission's recommendation is to table, just like you said, so we'd recommend the same to Ag and Rural Affairs.
Okay. We have a
For
vote.
how long you want to table it?
Indeterminate, correct?
Correct. Yep, because he has withdrawn it formally, we would just table indefinitely rather than deny.
Okay, very good. No problem with that. I'll make a motion to table indefinitely that both item B and C.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I spoke with Scott today about that issue, and it boils down to increase the amount of the taxes on those two lots now in AX versus RR is considerably different.
Okay. All right.
Hence was the reason for the withdrawal.
Okay. Okay,
Thanks.
thank you, Sonia.
Yep.
Okay, item 5D is rural broadband. Do Randy, Roger, you guys have an update on this?
I can add a few things, maybe Roger, if you want to step in as well, but at the moment, it's on, the plan is to have a meeting September 29th, and it's a Wednesday, and we're going to bring all of the stakeholders together to discuss the survey. I think Wade can speak to the survey, but we initially talked about a September 1st date, and with Wade's so much on his plate, I think he probably welcomed the idea that we had an additional month to put together that information. And that's really about all I know at this point. We're just compiling the data for from the survey. And we're all going to meet on the 29th in the afternoon to discuss that and then formulate next steps, a plan to go forward. Roger, did you want to
No,
elaborate?
you're right on.
All right, thank you. And
Yeah,
Wade probably
if I
can
could-
speak to it as well.
Yeah, just add a couple of things. So yeah, survey has been closed. We've got about 300 plus responses. I have started some preliminary mapping. I just need to vet that through some other folks here, but my thought was to present that to this committee at our next meeting in October. And again, per Randy's statement there, we'll see what happens at that September meeting, but at some point I would enjoy some specific direction from this committee on what the next steps are. As this continues to be part of staff's workload, we would just ask for, real specific direction on what the next steps are. And it sounds like that will come at that September meeting. So, but yeah, we'll certainly have maps ready to share with you all. And I think from there, we'll have a pretty good sense on what comes next. So.
Any-
I I think we covered it at this time. We'll certainly know more after the 29th, which will be a big meeting.
Right, it's going to be,
Okay, so we'll get this on the agenda for the October meeting then.
definitely, no, keep it on the agenda.
Right.
We are working very hard to come up with a plan for broadband in the rural area.
Okay.
Certainly needed.
Thank you.
No, thank
Yep,
Roger as well, yeah. we've
Thank you
been-
both for your
yeah,
work.
Yes,
Yeah,
really good work.
yeah.
Well, we hope it comes together.
Yes.
Yeah, no, a lot of it has to do with funding, and there's a lot of funding out there. We just need to make sure we have our data and a plan and be able to secure that funding from federal and state, so, yeah.
Good. Okay, Wade, any report from the department?
Just, I guess, one quick one, and Randy, you can chime in as well, but the ag zoning changes that we've all been working on so hard the past year plus, that was approved at council, I believe, maybe a month ago, 2 weeks ago. So that will be on the books now in terms of those new zoning changes. So again, thanks to the committee for all their work on that. I think that's about all I have, so.
Okay, thanks, Wade. That was a big accomplishment. I know we all had a lot of time and a lot of thought. And Wade, we probably put you through the ringer with changes on that too. I know we did at times, but that's appreciated. And the point is, to get it right and to have something that really improves the situation for agriculture. And I think we got hung up on certain issues, but, really it was about improving the future for agriculture in the city. And I think those changes go a long way toward doing that.
Yep, and again, I think we've laid a really good policy framework for what I'll call new agriculture in the city. And I imagine the next couple months, next couple of years, we'll see some proposals that reflect those new changes. So, yep.
I hope not.
Any announcements?
I might mention that we're still giving we've been talking about having a meeting, a rural meeting, to where we can have the landowners come in, a meeting a lot like we had a couple years ago. And we certainly can use the same facilities that we have used in the past. Those are available. But we're looking, we have to maybe talk about this pretty soon to get the time and the date and how we want it run and all of that. I kind of think we originally talked about maybe after the first of the year, January or something like that. So just kind of keep it in mind that we need to be talking about that.
Is there that's just establishing a future meeting date and place. We can discuss that.
Yeah.
Is there any preference for, say, January, February, March with regard to that meeting? Or do you know, Raj, whether the Durfers have a preference?
I've mentioned it to them, and I mentioned January simply because that's where we were at, but they certainly are flexible. And the other thing about it is, if we do have to set it up for distancing, we have got plenty of room at that location to do that. And I've visited with them a little bit about that, if it comes to that.
Okay.
So, and with the last time we had it, we had 50 people. So if we do have to do distancing, their facility will certainly handle it.
Huge, yeah.
Wade, how does January sound to you for that meeting?
Yeah, I think that's traditionally when we've held it, if memory serves. So yeah, that's fine with me.
Do you know what that date is, the third Tuesday in January?
Let's see.
17th, or 18th, January 18th.
January 18th?
Yep.
So January 18th of '22 would be the outreach meeting. So let's kind of all pencil that in, target that. If it needs to change, we can always move it back. Maybe, Raj, you can check with Durfers just to confirm with them if that date works for them. Let's go ahead and start planning for it, and then wait if there's any notices going out about that meeting or anything needs to go out to the newspaper. I guess maybe, Raj, if you could just confirm with Durfers, and if that's a go with them, let Wade know. we can get the notice out to the newspaper, right?
Yep, and remind me, have we considered that a regular committee meeting?
Yes.
Or was that a separate,
Yeah,
it wasn't
half of
regular
it.
meeting?
Yeah, half of it is a regular meeting, and then we adjourn to a public meeting.
So, okay, or maybe that's the other way around, is,
No,
Or we did-
the
No?
public
Okay.
meeting was last.
Okay.
And that's, we certainly would want that last because we,
If we
Right,
have,
yeah.
just, as a
just make
thought,
sure we,
if
just
we,
make sure we clarify that people, if they want to come for the committee meeting or the public meeting, just so we're clear on
yeah,
that, yep.
The reason we separated them is because it was the political part of it.
We had some
And if we
candidates.
have reason to have a political meeting, then it should be separated. And
That-
if we
yeah.
don't, then there's no reason that the staff can't be
That's right.
participant. It was only because of the political part of it.
that's a good.
Yeah, and I think we did it a couple different ways. But yeah, I'll go back and look at the agendas and we'll figure it out.
so we don't know what we may have for an agenda yet for that meeting. But one thing I'd recommend is kind of a conversation starter. Wade, maybe you could kind of just do a presentation on the ordinance that we just passed with regard to, the conditional uses in the ag area, so that everyone can hear that, discuss that, and that probably will be a good spot to start the conversation, I would guess. And then maybe any other updates that you think might be, helpful.
Sure.
The broadband would be another subject, and another subject should be what you guys talked about last month, and I was not available to be here. Some of the programs that are available through Dane County for the woodland tax relief.
Managed forest land?
Yes. And Dane County, Roger did his in a different way, but Dane County does that for free for the farmers, because we're already paying their wages. So they present that program.
Yeah,
and-
exactly.
And so maybe I will talk to the Dane County people who run that. When we get to that point, someone could be available for questions.
How long does, when they do that presentation, how long does that typically take?
Pardon?
How long does their presentation typically
I
take?
don't know the answer to that,
Okay,
but you guys discussed it at quite length at the last meeting. I was not here.
Yeah, didn't our city forester do a
City
presentation?
forester did,
Forester.
yeah.
Yes, but the city forester doesn't administer the program. Dane County administers the program. And they do it for free.
Okay,
So I think that's a big key.
okay.
can you, Wade, do you know who at the county administers that, or is that something that Mark could get you that
Yeah.
information?
Again, just to be clear, what Anna, our city forester, presented on was a state DNR managed forest tax law program. The county may have something similar. I'm not aware of, but yeah, Mark, if you know any contacts or what the program's called, I can look into it.
I will try to get that information. They probably use the same, a similar program, maybe a state program, Wade. But in Roger's case, for example, he went through a private person to put all that together. And that
Right.
cost money.
Right.
It was considerable.
Yep.
Where your ASCS county extension program,
Right.
that's part of the services they offer.
Sure.
But we're talking about two separate programs. There's a state program and a county program, correct?
No, the county administers through the state also,
They do?
but the prep work for it, you can go privately, as Roger did,
Okay,
or the county can help you do that. And that's at no cost to you.
okay. But,
But the program's the same.
yes, but what you're saying is you believe that a person from the county will come and do a presentation?
I will ask that question.
Okay.
I
And if-
just,
and if
I
that-
don't want the people at that meeting or to think that they gotta go out and hire somebody privately and pay money out of their pocket in
All right.
hopes that they're gonna be able to get this through when the SES program has been working with farmers for years.
Let's put that on the agenda either way. So whether we have someone from the county that Mark can identify, or if not, the city forester.
Yep.
And I think we want to keep all these presentations relatively brief, so that we go through these, knock them off, and then have plenty of time for people to comment, discuss, whatever it is that they may want to bring up as well.
Exactly. And we can have, if nothing else, we can have we can get the information to distribute at that meeting to the landowners.
Yeah. Wade?
I just thought that popped into my head, given the times we're living in. Hopefully COVID will be more in the rearview mirror by then, but
Don't matter.
we might have some issues with public gatherings. I will check into that, but just as a heads up, but I'll check in with our staff or legal staff and make sure we can have an offsite gathering of that magnitude. So, yep.
All right. So assuming that we can do it, we've identified 3 agenda items: the ordinance changes, broadband update, and woodland preservation. Anything else that anyone thinks that we may want to add to that? I mean, that's probably quite a bit right there. Okay, that's a good start. Other things may pop up that have to be on that agenda. Okay. Any other announcements? Hearing none, motion for adjournment?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, we're adjourned.